Hi, Ian with the Levantine Center. I just wanted to follow up kind of on the business tip with a question regarding either past, current, or expected future financing for film or television being sourced from either North Africa, the Gulf, Persian Gulf region, or South Asia. You know, for bank financing, syndicated deals, or just direct private equity investment, like how Steven Spielberg raised money out of India recently, I guess over the past few years. How do you anticipate financing for a creative product produced domestically proceeding over the next few years? And has that financing, or could it have any caveats with regard to the content? Or do they just want to, like as Reza articulated in a prior event, do they just want to see a bottom line return on their investment, or do they have any say, or do the investors have any preferences for how people are portrayed from that region?
Yeah, so with the, money coming from these other parts of the world, these underrepresented parts of the world, is there an expectation that the stories, the content, is going to match these themes?
In my opinion, I mean, we may all have slightly different opinions on this, but I think, in my opinion, it won't be so much the financing. The financing is interested in primarily in making money and getting a return on their investment. However, the fact that you have financing from the region will mean that there will be some projects made that have sensitivities or subjects based on the region, but not exclusively. They're interested in any investor is interested in getting return on his investment. However, what will happen and have a big effect is as the economies of the world shifts and you get a bigger audience out there, you will start to make movies for that audience. And that will swing what content is and the sensitivity of the content. I'll make a plug for a friend of mine. There's a group that actually started Culture Unplugged. I don't know if any of you've gone on the website, their website, but Culture Unplugged is started by two Indians that worked in the US for a long time. And it's a free, they don't pay filmmakers, but they give filmmakers access to the world by displaying it on cultureunplugged.com. And they deal with all social issues, and it gives you a great perspective on how different people perceive themselves and what their issues are and what the issues of the world are.
Marco, Howard, do you have any experience with this?
I think what happens, and I haven't had direct experience, but I see where there's, for example, recently there's been funds from Abu Dhabi fund, and there's a Qatar, and they generally, what will happen, I think. First of all, Barry is absolutely right. The first and by far the first and foremost priority is return on investment, and they make it very clear we want to make money. But they also do mention that we give preference, sometimes that we preference to subject matters that are more, portray more positive image of the reason, or the region, wherever it comes. So in that sense, but I don't think, to be honest with you, having seen those things, I don't think that's going to be a significant source of impact. I don't think we're going to be suddenly seeing a higher number of films coming out that are more friendly to the whole Muslim world. And the other thing is the reality is that the population of the world does not represent the amount of money that comes to finance the films. Basically, on the independent world, and the same thing is reflected, when we want to make a movie, we sit there and make a chart. There's literally country by country, and there's a dollar amount in front of every country. And I can tell you it has very little to do with population. The biggest number obviously comes from the United States. After that is usually Germany or Japan. It is reflective more of the size of the economies. And then you got countries like India, for some crazy reason, and I haven't quite figured out. I'm sure people who are from that region, they can give an answer. It's this huge population, movie-going people, but yet the number that you put, if you were going to make a movie here in Hollywood, the number that you would put in front of India would be smaller than South Korea. So, you know, it's not, because they don't, for Hollywood movies are budgeted based on the amount of money you can receive from each country, and the amount of money coming out of the Muslim world is practically irrelevant. The biggest single Muslim territory, I think, if I remember correctly, is Turkey. And that's, again, smaller than, for example, South Korea. So that's not going to be a source of influence for a long time unless those countries become wealthy, build huge multiplexes, and that's going to be a long way.
I think we have time for one more question.
Yes, one more. Last question.
Last question? Anyone? I'm going. Yes.
I'm just really curious about whether you've talked about the kind of the cultural religious superiority complex of a Christian America, especially as you make a movie about Muhammad. I read a fascinating book called The Crusade Through Arab Eyes, and you know, our early purveyors of culture and religion were not very polite people. In fact, the Pope gave a pardon for eating Muslim babies because they weren't people after all. And I'm wondering how you can, you know, get those two together. This kind of dichotomy of, you know, we are America the strong, and we're this religious Christian country that's, you know, giving righteousness to everybody, and Muslims are these perverse, barbaric people. And how do you tell a different story so blatantly when you actually start looking at historical facts?
I think if you make, you know, I think information is really, and education is really what you are after, and to enlighten people. And it's just it's sort of the experience I had in the Army of trying to teach GS the value of the Korean society and what the Koreans' contribution to the world was, and some of the beauty of their culture. It's the same sort of thing. If you can show people that what the values of the Arab world are, or what the values of Muhammad are, and that they are not really so different. And in fact, they're quite similar to Christian values. If you do it successfully through a movie that engages your audience, you've achieved something. It's not easy to do, but, and by the way, I think it works both ways. I think any society, I think what you find in the world is most societies are insular and they don't see outside themselves. So it happens in the other direction as well. And a great film maybe can help bridge those cultural differences. And it's a tall order, and it's you know, a very big challenge.
It's a great segue if we can just kind of end with the theme of this conversation, which is bridging cultures, using film and entertainment and media to bridge cultures. And maybe if the three of you could just very briefly give a final thought about what you think, you know, the role of film could be in this important task, you know, in this time of conflict and strife, and if you feel positive or optimistic about it,